Hi, I'm Martin Worth, and this is The Mystic Fool. Today's a bit of a long one. I had a Zoom call with a lady called Beverly Holt to discuss some principles on manifestation. I wanted to really have an opportunity to present some of the work that I found from a fellow called Neville Goddard. A lot of the information that I sourced is from a fellow who calls himself Mr. 2020, and I do give credit to Mr. 2020 during the episode. And you can find stuff about Mr. 2020 if you're interested at freeneville.com. That's freeneville.com. Yeah, I'd like to give a little introduction to Beverly. I've known Beverly for about 12 months now. She's a health and well-being expert. She's a healer, a public speaker, a coach, an author, and a podcaster. Yeah, Beverly's done a lot of good stuff. She's currently traveling in a camper van around Australia and has been doing so for about the last 12 months. She's enjoying connecting with nature and going with the flow. And she's looking for land to build a heart-based school and a wellness retreat on it. And if you'd like to find out more information about Beverly, you can find it at her website, which is www.mywellnessspring. That's mywellnessspring.co. mywellnessspring.co. Or just Google Beverly Holt. She's got a lot of mentions on Google. All right, so let's dive right in. I hope you enjoy this one. I know you will enjoy this one. And catch you on the flip side. Cheers. I suppose earlier this year, I started to notice this Neville Goddard guy. It was through Instagram, actually. There's Neville Goddard India, believe it or not. And they keep posting pictures of this very 1950s looking fellow, very straight with a suit and tie and looking very kind of 1950s with these amazing quotes about, you know, what these days we would call manifesting. And so I got quite interested in it and started to research it. And as you know, because you've known me for a while now, I've been talking about a podcast since forever. And it was using these Neville Goddard's techniques that actually had propelled me into being about maybe a week away now from actually launching it, which is awesome because I had real resistance to it, you know? Like, I don't know what it was, but I got some theories, like, you know, wondering what people are going to think, you know, is it going to be good enough? Am I going to make a fool of myself? And funnily enough, I called the podcast The Mystic Fool, which is cool. So right now I'm just waiting for well, it's a pertinent story because once I started using some of these Neville Goddard techniques that we're going to talk about in a minute, I just started to manifest stuff about the podcast. David, who we were just speaking about, David Bauer, Lemurian Healing, he said, "Oh, a podcast! I've got a how to make a podcast thing," and he sent me this thing called the Trello board. I started working on that, which opened up stuff like the survey that I put out, and then I had someone I knew found out that their partner was a graphic designer and I had a really crap logo, and she's just almost finished a great logo for me. So all these things just started to happen. And in none of those instances did I don't think in any way I made it happen. These things just started to unfold. And I think that's the secret to manifesting. As soon as we start to get in our way and start to push, perhaps is a good word, we start to put our ego in there, you know, as we would say from a create your destiny point of view, that we start, all our dysfunctioning patterning comes out and our belief system starts coming in, and sneaky, we start to actually go over this way or go over that way, but not going that way. We start to we start to push things in a direction that's not for our highest good. So Neville, okay, he was born in 1905 and died in 1972, which is pretty amazing, really, that, he basically exited the planet at a time when all this new age thinking stuff started to come to the fore. Because I remember back in the 80s doing courses on new age thinking. And funnily enough, most of the new age thinking back then was all about affirmations. It was about, if you want to be rich, go to the Hilton, sit there. If all you can do is afford a cup of coffee, buy a cup of coffee, getting in the energy of it. But as we know, affirmations, I mean, on one level they can work, but on another level, they actually, they come from negative vision. I don't have something, so I'm going to tell myself I have it, which only tells myself I don't have it yet, therefore I don't have it. Therefore, my beliefs kick in, and this is the problem with affirmations. I'm not saying they don't work for some people sometimes, but affirmations generally tend to be out of negative vision. There are a lot of people who've taken Neville Goddard's stuff and they're actually, they're posting it up. And this Neville Goddard India is a bunch of people who have taken that up. There's usually a little picture of Neville and a little saying down the side, and it's really cool. The problem I've noticed, though, is that most people who pick up the Neville Goddard tools, whatever, philosophy, whatever you'd like to call it, mostly end up, what's the word? Just disempowering it. They go towards the affirmation side, or they go this side and they bring some other stuff in. It's just not the purity of what Neville says is basically that that consciousness is the only reality, and that we create everything in our lives. He says imagination is the first step, and reality, physical reality, follows. So if you take that to its extent, everything we have in our life and everything that's around us in our lives, we've just created everything. There's nothing man-made that wasn't at first a thought in the imagination of someone.
Yeah.
Even if you go back to banging rocks together in the cave, I can bang these rocks together, it makes a noise. Oh, imagine that. The next thing they've got a pair of, couple of clap rocks. Right through to me creating the studio that I'm sitting in, down to Zoom platform, everything was, but you can even take it a step beyond that, because every spiritual teaching, religion, starts with, in the beginning, there was like this consciousness, and consciousness created the world. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. Neville was really big on the Bible, actually, which is interesting. But his interpretation of the Bible, because he was taught by a fellow called Abdullah, who was an Ethiopian rabbi. So it's very interesting stuff. And Neville himself was quite a mystic. His interpretation of the Bible is that it's not to be taken literally. It is a map of human consciousness, which is really interesting. I like that concept. Yeah. But yeah, so Neville said that imagination is the very gateway of reality. And he also said that whatever you desire, believe you've received it and you will have it. And then he also said that there are different states that we can be in. And an state is basically like if you have a choice or a vision, like, successful podcaster, intuitive healing practitioner. I have a state of being loving husband. I have a state of being loving dog dad. I have a state of being loving father and grandfather, and all these different states, different aspects of us.
And when we look at our visions that we have about, when we look into the future and what we've called in the past a land of plenty, in that land of plenty, there are different themes, and the themes are different states. Neville said that all states are present at this moment in time. All we have to do is choose the one that we want to be in. So the state of being safe is present. So is the state of danger, the state of being happy, the state of being sad, the state of being wealthy, the state of being poor. They all exist contemporaneously with each other. And it's a little bit like, okay, there's subconscious, there's the unconscious beliefs going, oh no, doom and gloom. And there's the superconscious beliefs, all sitting there, they're all there at the same time. And Neville says that to choose the state we want to be in. Yeah. And he also says, beyond setting the intention or choosing your state, that's where free will ends, which is interesting. And what he means by that is that once we choose the state we want to occupy, that's all we have to do. After that, the universe steps in and creates that state for us. And that's where the magic is in all of this. So there's 3 tools that Neville spoke about to actually create the life you love, what it is that you want to have. And these 3 tools are, the first one is called revision. The second one is I remember when. And the third one is what he calls a congratulatory conversation. And so, and so how you use those is basically the I remember when, I think, is great, because basically the first thing you do is decide the state that you want to be in, the state of being a inspiring podcaster. So what Neville says is to construct a scene that would imply your wish fulfilled. So what's the scene that would imply me having a amazing, inspiring podcast that attracts millions of people? And the scene that came to mind for me was this. Here I am, getting up in the morning, having my cup of coffee, looking at all the emails that I've received to the mystic fool at martinworth.com about how great the podcast is. Can we please talk more about this? I love that thing you said about, higher self. It was wonderful. Great stuff. Where do I subscribe? Do you have videos on this that I can buy because I want to do this course, this spiritualmastery.com course that you've been talking about? How do I sign up for it? Boom, boom, boom. Now that's a scene that implies my wish fulfilled.
Yeah.
And nowhere in that is there anything about how that happened, because it's happened.
Exactly.
I get up every morning, I wake up in the morning and I say, wow, how many great emails have I gotten today about my podcast? And it's really motivating because it's exciting.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, it sets up that creative tension.
Yeah.
And so we're not wake up in the morning and say, I'll choose the end result of having a really great podcast. Okay, get my coffee. Exciting. No, not. I'm excited to get up to see how many emails I've got. So the other thing then is to step into that. That's the state, inspiring podcaster. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just surrender to that state. Just say, okay, good, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not. And Neville says not to grasp for it. Don't reach for it.
Yeah.
To let the energy come in. It's very deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
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 Be that which you desire to be. Be that person. Yeah. Whatever it might
Exactly.
be. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, realistically, there's nothing new in this, but it
No.
puts it that for me, and perhaps for you and for everyone else that might one day hear this,
Mhm.
I think it just takes it down to the most simple, pure, effective state that it can possibly be. There's no
Yeah.
bells and whistles around this. It's just pure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's constructing a scene that would imply you wish fulfilled.
Yeah,
Then,
I've often taught stuff like this naturally. And I say to people, once you're in that state, yes, you can leave it up to the universe. However, your part is to embody it and really act as if you are this inspiring podcaster. You talk to people about it. You imagine your emails coming in and things like that. So you leave it up to the universe to bring it in. You're not grasping it. However, you're feeling the emotions of it. And that's what's getting you out of bed in the morning. That's what's making you click.
Yeah. And it rests with all the other states too, like being loving husband, state of loving husband. Okay. I'm not amazing podcaster 24/7. I've got other parts of my life as well. And so, and it's nice because when I step into the state of being loving husband, then I'm listening to Chris. I'm, getting her a coffee or a glass of wine, and I'm doing it from a state of giving. And in that state is a different state to being loving puppy dad and playing around with Atticus and rolling around on the floor and chasing after him and things like that. So different states, And once amazing podcaster has had enough for the day, then I can be loving puppy dad, or I can go and be, effective healing practitioner and all these other states. So I mean, it's a matter of nowhere in any of those states is grumpy old bugger Martin. He doesn't exist anymore. Sometimes he pops his head up, but then loving husband comes in and says, "Hey, loving husband time." Oh no, it's loving puppy dad. Let's do that instead. So it gives you like these little states that you can go to when the the shadow side starts to come forth, which it does, as we know, or the doubts come in. Okay. Just move away into one of your other choices, into one of your other states. Yeah. So that's the imagination side of it. Got your scene that would imply you wish fulfilled, and I think that is the most important place to be. But then to reinforce that throughout the day, at any time that you feel like you want to, there's the I remember when. And I remember when is awesome because it brings the past it brings the future into the past. So I remember when, well, you keep using the podcast thing, why not? I remember when I launched that podcast.
Oh, I see. So you're not talking about a true past event. You're talking about your choices and inverted commas, the state you want to be in.
Yeah. And it is quite interesting because I was working with a fellow, one of my healing clients who's been bedridden for a little while. And I said to him, "What are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do when you're well?" And he said, "I'm going to get up and make breakfast for my mum."
Oh,
that's nice.
How sweet.
He's a lovely guy. He really is.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, what would that look like?" And he says, "Well, I make an omelette." I said, "What are you going to put in it?" "Oh, whatever, cheese and ham and tomato." And I said, "Wow. So yeah, okay. So tell me more." And he's telling me, and I said, "Okay." And so he's telling me about the omelette, and I said, you starting to feel hungry, are you? He said, I am actually. I said, I bet you're starting to salivate a little bit too, aren't you? He says, yeah, I am. And I said, yeah, okay. That's because your brain can't tell the difference between you saying, I'm cooking an omelette, and really getting into cooking it, and actually sitting here on this call with me. And I said, so I want you to remember when you cooked that omelette for your mum. And that is a really powerful thing, because it spurs. I mean, if it can make you salivate and make your tummy rumble, what does it do within the brain? What's happening in the brain first before that actually happens? And what's happening in your brain is there's neurological pathways that are going, oh yeah, omelette. It's motivating. It's motivating, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when I launched this podcast, it was great. You know, then those emails started coming. And then people started signing up for the courses online that go into more depth. And yeah, I remember when that happened. It's just fantastic stuff. So we're really bringing a future event as a past event because it's already happened.
Yeah.
And then getting back into that scene that implies the wish fulfilled. You're living that state. It's beautiful stuff, you know. Then there's a congratulatory conversation. This is a really cool one because there's three different ways you can look at a congratulatory conversation, and they all have a different facet to them. And the first one is seeing someone coming up to you and telling you how great the podcast is, or whatever it might be, and coming up and, you know, shaking your hand, giving you a hug, whatever. But you see them, you are seeing it first person. It's got to be first person.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing it happen. There they are coming up to you saying, man, that was awesome. Congratulations, you know. The second congratulatory conversation is seeing two people talking about what it is that you've created. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
It is, actually. So there's a couple of people chatting about it, saying, hey, you know, have you seen Beverly's podcast? I'm going to put it on you for a while now. Have you heard that Beverly's got that block of land she's been hunting for? Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, you know, blah, 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 blah. And let them talk. Let them talk because it's cool, because it happened. They're talking about it, you know. And the third one is a whole group of people, your tribe, all of your people who are relevant to this particular vision, talking about it, telling their friends about it. That's cool. Yeah. If they're telling their friends about it, not only do they like it, but they think it's so good they've got to tell someone else how great it is. So these are just so really cool things, you know. And then the third tool is revision. When I use holographic kinetics, it really is all about revisioning. And take a person back to the moment in time where the issue occurred, which created the belief, the assumption, whatever it might be that we're looking at, where the pain began. We look at it in all its facets and we say, no, I don't need that energy. And we create a new dimension of time in those circumstances. And what we're doing is revisioning it. We're saying, okay, and you can use this at any time of day. It's a good one to use as you're falling asleep at night, just going through your day and just looking, oh, look, that didn't quite go as well as I wanted it to. So no, don't accept that. This is how it went. And change it just change it, just revision it to be what it is that you want it to be. And it doesn't just have to be about things that didn't go well.
Yeah.
It can be about things that went good, that could be great. And so, you know, I had a good chat with Beverly. Actually, this is a great chat. So it's not a good example. This is really great. So I had a good chat with so and so today, and no, I had a great chat with them, and it was awesome, and we really connected, and there was a lot of energy in it, and it was exciting, and boom, 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 boom. And what you're doing is just setting yourself up, particularly if you do this just before you go to sleep. You're setting yourself up for your mind to process the new, I would call it a new dimension in my healing practice. And it's really interesting. And I do have to mention that that some of these, a lot of the Neville Goddard stuff that I have found has been from this guy who called himself Mr. 2020. That's 2020. And I would encourage anyone to look up Mr. 2020 because he's really nailed the Neville Goddard stuff. And a lot of the things that I have picked up in the last 2 or 3 months since I've been looking at it has been from him. And he has a great podcast. I listen to it. They're little 5-minute sections. I listen to it every day. I listen to a couple of them every day.
And is Mr. 2020 on Instagram or where for the listeners?
Yeah, Instagram. I listen to him on Spotify. Yeah.
Right.
But he's got a whole lot of different websites and things. It's really easy to find. If people Google free Neville, they'll find him. Yeah. And it was funny because I did a healing session. One of the healing sessions I did just recently, and it was about an ancestral thing, about grandma and granddad having arguments and stuff, and which he knew to be true because he'd heard the stories.
Oh yes.
Okay. So we changed it on the table. We revisioned it, as we would say in the Neville Goddard language, and we changed it for we called up grandma, said, "Grandma, want to change this?" "Yes." "Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's create a new time track for you, grandma. Let's revision it for you." Okay. And it was interesting because he went home and spoke to his mum about it, and she said, "That never happened. They never argued." And I said, "Yeah, that's because we changed the past in the present for the future."
That's very powerful. Yeah,
it's very powerful. And the reason I mentioned Mr. 2020, other than to give him a lot of cred because he's great, is that I did the healing session. I listened to a Mr. 2020 podcast, and he said in his 2020 podcast, he said, if I really revision something so well, I'm changing the past. I'm changing the past completely. And if I do it well enough, the old dimension, he didn't say that, but the old will not exist. And I wouldn't know that I'd changed it because I would have no memory of how it was before I did so. I heard that from the healing session. Then I heard that. Then this guy rings up and says, "Mum said it never happened." I said, interesting. Yep, that's because we changed it. It's not because it didn't happen. It's because we changed it. So, wow.
There's also scientific evidence as well. If you're, a family growing up, you will all have different versions of the event. And neurologically, we magnify the event. So if you have an argument with someone, then it's all blown up out of proportion, and it's always much worse than what it was. And I was given a talk in Nice one time, and 2 of my sisters were there, and after the talk they were like, "Wow, we both can't remember that. Our versions are completely different." So
totally.
As years go by, so even our conversation today will be different to what I remember it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll each have a different version of the conversation.
Yeah.
and if it was a conversation that we dwelt on, we would perhaps embellish and reinforce the aspects of it that we each remember.
Yeah.
And that would become a stronger and stronger reality, which is another good example of how we can review things.
Yeah.
And I've had discussions with people about things that have happened in the past, and like you say, a completely different viewpoint on it. And that's just the psychological side of it.
Yeah.
And if you really want to just go into spirit, and the best way to use these tools is, of course, to take a few deep breaths and become aware of the inflow and outflow of your breath, and go into spirit, connect with your higher self, and come from that point of love and universal energy, which I can feel coming in now, and I love it. It's beautiful, isn't it? And so the best time to do any of this is when you're in that state. I mean, we who meditate, there are everyone can meditate. Everyone can, just that some people just haven't had the opportunity to do it. They haven't taken the time or had the opportunity. So, when you wake up in the morning, you're in that state before you actually start to think too deeply. Is the best time to decide what it is, what states you're going to occupy today, and just run through and do your imagination, your imaginary scene that would imply your wish fulfilled. It's a good time to, I remember when, boom, boom, boom. It's a good time to enjoy the congratulatory conversation. As I say, the best time to do revision is as you're going to sleep. And of course, once again, you're putting yourself back into that state akin to sleep, I think is the way that Neville expressed it back in the 50s and the 60s, the state akin to sleep. And what he's talking about is that meditative state. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Neville Goddard. There's a Hawaiian law, a Hawaiian spiritual law, which I was talking to someone about the other day, and I could not remember the name of it. And I'm telling myself again, I can't remember the name of it. It's like the law of what it is when you've got a whole lot of things to do, the first thing you do is the thing that you feel most inspired about.
Exactly.
It's like the law of inspired return or something like that. Because once you do that, I've got energy for this. And that might be washing the car when you actually should be recording a podcast. So you jump into
procrastination.
No, you jumped into a state of loving car owner. And you clean the
A lot of
car.
people would say you're procrastinating by washing the car instead of uploading.
They would say that. But you know what you're doing is you're going for this, you're doing this law of inspired action. That's what it's called, the law of inspired action. Because now if I'm not feeling inspiring podcast right now, I'm not feeling this, that, and the other. If I'm not feeling loving husband right now, I'm going to go wash the car. It's better than arguing with Chris. And I go and wash the car. I'm inspired to do that. And in doing that, I feel a sense of calm, a sense of peace. I'm achieving something, and then I go and apologize to Chris. No. and then I sit down and say, okay, well, cool. All right, now I can do this. And it's true. People call it procrastinating. You're right. But is it really procrastinating?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just, hey, I really don't feel it right now for that state.
Well,
why would I push it?
My partner would say that I could write a book on how to be the world's #1 procrastinator.
Well, why don't you? Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe we've just got a theme for that book for you. Procrastinating is not procrastinating.
Yeah.
and here's how to get the best out of your procrastination, because the energy that you create in doing something that you love to do right now is going to create energy that's going to give you the strength and the power and the inspiration to do that other thing. Yay.
Sounds good to me.
The law of procrastination. We're going to have to talk about that one a bit more, Beverly. I love it. Yeah, the law of inspired action. There's there's 12 apparently. I don't know. There's 12 of these Hawaiian, I think they call it huna or something like that, laws. It all ties in with the Ho'oponopono.
Oh, yeah.
There's 12 laws, and that's one of them, the law of inspired action. Do the thing that you love to do right now. It'll save you a whole lot of grief. Yeah. So just to top off the Neville stuff then, choose your state.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a scene that would imply your wish fulfilled. I remember when. The congratulatory conversation.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that, you know.
I totally agree.
Revision. And then go and get on with the law of inspired action and do what you feel you need to do. I just made that one up. And then repeat. Just do that. Okay.
Yeah.
What state am I going to be in now? I don't feel like doing that right now. So what's one of my other states? And it's good to have these states. They're like contexts for you, you know, like I say, loving dog dad, loving husband, inspiring podcaster, effective healing practitioner, you know, whatever you want there. And that's, I guess, that's the different states. You know, I like having just a value that suits the particular state, and then the state. So it's sort of very easy. You know, it's not too many words.
Short, succinct, clear, straight to the point, and you trigger that emotion straight away.
Yeah, I'm not choosing the end result of it. I am.
Yeah.
Says the Lord. Because Neville Goddard's big on that too. I am. You know, the I am thing out of the Bible and all that.
Yeah. Well,
I am loving husband. I am inspiring podcaster. I am a point of divine consciousness. And so are you.
Well, we're all one, and we all mirror each other, as you know. So we are one.
We certainly are.
It's just triggered in me. My work I do with Psych K, which I haven't used for a long time. And Psych K is psychology, kinesiology. And you test a statement and you form your own language. So you get a yes and no, good, bad, and true or false. And in that, in the advanced course that I did, it's very similar to this work. And it's like, oh my God, I need to revisit that. All my stuff's in a container though, but it is very powerful stuff. And being in that present moment is so powerful. You know, it's the only moment that exists. Yeah,
I agree 100%. I was talking to someone the other day about healing modalities and the energy of them. And I do firmly believe that there are energies of certain flavor, you know. Yeah. And the flavor of the current energy that is available to us at this point of of our spiritual evolution, where the earth is at, whether it's because of the precession of the equinoxes or whatever it might be. There is definitely energy available now that I believe has been coming through since the 50s and the 60s. That particularly now, it's really amped up. And that energy takes many, many forms. It's the same energy. It's the energy of human spiritual consciousness expansion, if you want to give it a big long word. And whether it's the modality you just mentioned, which is what, sorry, what did you call it?
Psych K.
Psych K, whether it's holographic kinetics, whether it's Lemurian healing, whether it's, whatever, it's the same energy. It's just a different way of delivery. And I really personally believe that the energy behind what Neville Goddard brought through in the 60s is the same energy. It's the same. It's healing energy. This is healing, creative, divine energy.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it exists within all these healing modalities. Yeah.
It obviously resonated with you, and you're breathing in his information because you're very passionate about it, and you're speaking his word as if he is speaking, So it's wonderful to see your enlightened state coming alive with Neville.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's cool. It just really resonated
it's very
with
contagious.
me. Yeah. And it's just so simple. Yeah. It just works. It's just such a simple, it's like extrapolating, like I say, different healing modalities all extrapolates down to this, it's really changing time, bringing the future into the past to feel it in the present, changing the past in the present for the future, review, I remember when, congratulatory conversation. They're all healing modality, spiritual techniques. And that's what I love so much about it. And I think, hang on a minute, I do this when I'm doing a healing session for people.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a minute, this guy's got something. Hang on a minute, I can use this.
Exactly.
And so can everyone else. Yeah, wonderful
and,
stuff.
We all do it naturally anyway. And
every second.
And we are all healed in our true state of oneness. We're all healed. We don't need to be healed. However, to help people on their journey to the state of oneness, they might need a helping hand from a light worker. And it doesn't matter, like you say, the message is the same. Some of us are here to guide, and some of us are here to seek, and we're all seekers on some level.
Absolutely. Yeah, particularly in this time, in this, absolutely. Yeah, David Bauer says all healing is self-healing.
Exactly.
I love it. It's so true. I mean, even medications from the doctor, they give you medication which slows the process of the infection, which will give your body a chance to heal itself.
Exactly. But I like to take it further. Most people, when you go to the doctor, in the past, we've seen doctors as gods. When I was growing up, it was like, oh my God, you're going to doctors, don't worry, the doctor will heal you. The doctor will give you a nice remedy or whatever. You already know just from going to the doctor that you're going to be healed. So psychologically, it's like your imagination. You're going to the doctors and you're going to be healed.
Faith, hey?
Yeah.
Same stuff.
Exactly.
Imagine a state of your wish fulfilled. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's the power of it,
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to revisiting or visiting this work, and which I know I've done with Psych K or very similar.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Just see just observe my manifestations from it, just being in that state of I am. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
I mean, you know,
Exactly.
we kind of know this stuff, but putting it in such simple terms and such practical terms allows, it just opens the door. It really does. Yeah.
And I think that's what people need today, with so much technology and lots of scientific research, etc., etc. It's like you are your best. You have the best technology inside you, and you have the wisdom of the universe inside you, and all the answers are there. So keep it simple, because when you're in nature and everything is so simple, when you relax and look at nature, everything is meant to be simple. And if it's simple, people are more likely to follow your words of advice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just want to say, you've kept this very simple, and I like to honor that, and making it easy for people who are not very evolved, and a reminder for people who are more evolved to just keep it simple. That's all they need to do.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Beverly. That was a congratulatory conversation I had just before we started this video, by the way. not word for word, but thank you, because that was my aim. Thank you.
No,
thank you, Neville. Thank you, Spirit.
Yeah, you explained it very clearly, and not everybody has that gift, you know, too much waffling and not getting straight to the point. But, you know, it's like the anagram, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. You just have to get your points out, you know, and the small stories you gave about the man bedridden and making his mother an omelette, you know, I could see the omelette being made, so it was really really good. So
and tell me you're going to jump off this call and go and make an omelette, right?
if I wasn't vegan, I might.
There you go. Exactly.
But in the past, when I did eat omelettes, and my sister Mary is the master of making omelettes.
Oh wow.
And whenever I stayed with her, it was like, oh, will you make me an omelette, please? Because they always came out perfect, and she always puts different delicious ingredients in. So I was revisiting her making the omelettes, and yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Yeah. Thanks, Beverly.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Been great to chat with you today.